Good evening, everyone. This is your 30-second warning, so we're going to get started momentarily. So I'm going to ask you to find a great spot to sit. And we are going to go ahead and, so tonight we're going to bring up the candidates by alphabetical order. So we're going to ask, where's Laura? Laura right there is going to escort the other candidates to another space. I think I'm a little too close. There we go. And we'll get started in just a minute. All right, welcome everyone. All right, you're good? Thank you, Laura. All right, so welcome everyone who is here tonight and also everyone who's watching. So we are streaming this on our Facebook page, and then it'll also be available for people to view if they weren't able to join us during this time tonight. I know this time doesn't always work for everyone, so thank you, those who are here, for taking time out of your day to come join us as we move through a process to make a really, really important decision for our city. So a couple things I want to do. I want to recognize my colleagues who are here tonight. I have Commissioner Lanier in the back. Yes, she's greeting everyone with cookies. Thank you, Commissioner. Third Ward Commissioner back there. We have our newly appointed Commissioner, Mr. Nathaniel Moody. Welcome, Commissioner. We have First Ward Commissioners, Commissioner Riphart and Commissioner O'Connor, and then Commissioner Kelly and Commissioner Jones are on their way, so they'll be here momentarily. And then we also have our comptroller, I know I saw her somewhere, who's with us tonight as well. So we're really happy to be hosting this event and giving the community an opportunity to meet the candidates. A couple things about tonight before I turn it over to Art Davis, who has been our point person for the consulting firm. First, I want to thank Art for his work. He's been on this journey with us at City Hall with the full commission for several months now, and he's been absolutely fantastic to work with. The other person who's been absolutely instrumental at the city is our city attorney, Anita Hitchcock. So Anita, thank you so much for your service and work. Really appreciate it. So tonight, a couple things about tonight. We're going to ask you to take a moment, if you want to fill out a comment card. So these are on the back. You're welcome to write anything you want. We'll pick those up and we'll have those summarized, and that will get to the full city commission tomorrow before we do interviews. The other thing is after tonight, tomorrow we'll be spending a full day, the full city commission, interviewing the candidates starting at 8 in the morning. So we'll do 2 interviews in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. And you're welcome to attend those. If you're not able to attend, you're also welcome to get online and watch those through our Facebook or our video live stream. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Art Davis, and he'll give us a few more details before we get started.
Thank you all. Again, Art Davis with Springstead Water's Executive Recruitment. It's been a pleasure to work with you all and for your community. You've seen the 5 candidates on the list of candidates. Tom Amonte, the interim deputy city manager for Grand Rapids currently. Pete Auger, city manager of Novi, Michigan. Mike Cernich, city manager of Tamarack, Florida. April Lynch, city manager of Ferndale, Michigan, and Mark Washington, assistant city manager of Austin, Texas. And is Tom in here? Tom, all right, come on up. You're gonna do a little self-introduction here. And what I'm gonna ask the candidates to do, and we've purposefully asked the other 4 to sit in another room so they're not gonna hear the others in their presentations, but initially I'm going to ask each candidate to do a self-introduction, talk a little bit about themselves, their record of achievement, what they currently work on, and things that they're proud of in their career and why they would be a good fit for the Grand Rapids City Manager position. And then I'm going to follow up with an additional question after that. But as part of the self-introduction, we went on tours. The 5 candidates went on a very comprehensive tour through all the wards this morning. It was an outstanding tour. But I would also like the candidates to talk a little bit about their impressions of the tour and of Grand Rapids. And of course, Tom's got a little inside track because he lives here and knows the community well. But Tom?
Thank you, Art, and thank you to the city commissions that are in the room, to the search committee. I also want to say that when you spend an hour and a half with John Henhorn and Rick talking about the community, you actually get to learn something new, and I did. So that was, I'm glad that I was part of that process, and I learned at least 1 or 2 things about the city. I'm someone from the community. I have been in this city for over 30 years. My parents migrated here from the Dominican. I grew up in the Burton Heights. I attended GRCC, went to GRPS, GVSU. I can testify of the social capital that exists in this community and the dreams that are taking shape in our community. Many people ask, what is unique about you, Tom? And I said, I'm someone that's innovated, someone that surrounds himself with people to identify solutions, sustainable solutions to the problems that we have. Solutions that reflect the latest data, best practices in the nation. It's what I have done throughout my career, whether it was in the beginning, during my college year, and I helped launch one of the Hispanic newspaper in our region, to serving as the president of the Hispanic Chamber, and most recently leading one of the largest service groups in the city. There are 3 areas that I would like to highlight to you today, and these are 3 challenges that we must address. The first one is the transition of our organization. 50% of our workforce is going to transition in the next 3 to 5 years. Not only we need to ask the question of how do we do replacement, but how do we capture the self-knowledge of those employees? And how do we create opportunity for reallocation of resources? Although the budget is on track, if we do nothing, we will slide back into the red in 2 years. The changes in our organization will require flexibility, will require that we rethink how we do business, and that flexibility will require the cooperation of our union. Having someone on the ground that has the knowledge and the trust is essential to moving the city forward. The second challenge that I would like to share with you today is the notion of lifting the city up. Building a city that works for everyone. We are one of the largest employers in the region. How and who we hire will make a significant impact in our community, especially the African American community and the Hispanic community, where we are experiencing double-digit unemployment, and I believe we can do better. The city encompasses a large segment of new Americans, people of color, and the working poor. Having city operations that are open and accessible is vital to our organization. And having interaction through the lens of being inclusive and equitable will ensure that everyone in our community can be successful. We must create feedback mechanisms that allow our residents to be engaged. I believe when that happens, we will have a community that will be more resilient and responsive and engaged to city government. The last challenge that I want to share with you is reaching out. We cannot move forward and address the challenges that we have and the priorities that the City Commission has identified without creating a strong partnership Challenges like affordable housing, challenges like mobility and transportation, addressing inequality in our community. Those challenges will require partnership, and the city has to be ready to partner. The city is part of a metropolitan area, and how we address those areas will have a significant impact in our community. And I want to say thank you.
Thanks, Tom. As a follow-up question, tell us, describe how you would get things done as city manager in Grand Rapids. Describe your approach to public outreach, community engagement, and seeking community input. And what methods have you found to be effective in getting that input from the community?
You know, one of the things that we have done very well in our community is engaging the community. And there's an expectation that anything that we do has to be done through the lens of engagement. I believe that we can actually enhance the work that we have done as we move forward by reallocating the resources that we have in our organization to emphasize community engagement. I would propose that as we move forward, and if I'm selected as the city manager, that we actually create a neighborhood engagement office that will concentrate not only in building capacity for our community, but also in creating a neighborhood engagement plan that can provide the guidance that we need as we engage with the community. The challenges that we're going to be facing, not only the one that we have today, but those challenges that we're going to be facing as we continue to move forward, will require the participation of everyone in this community. Having a clear process in place where the community understands how to engage will be very important in how we move forward and how we make decisions. So as your city manager, I will be very committed to creating a very clear framework in how the community can engage and be part of the decisions that are being made.
And talk directly to the candidates one-on-one. So I think we're waiting on our next candidate. Hi, Pete. You're going to be up at the podium. We're going to introduce, have you do a self-introduction about yourself, where you're from, a little bit about your career and your areas of expertise and why you would be a good fit here as city manager in Grand Rapids. And then I'll follow up with another question. But also as a part of this, in the tour today, the initial presentation, in the tour today, what did you find intriguing and impressive about the community as a part of your self-introduction? Thank you.
Thank you, Art. And thank you all for caring enough to come out tonight to figure out what's going on and who could possibly exercise leadership in the community for hopefully the next decade or so. My name is Pete Auger. I'm currently the city manager in the city of Novi, which is a ring city, part of the other metropolitan area in Michigan. Novi is doing very well. We're financially sound. And one of the things that attracted me to the Grand Rapids position was it really mimics a lot of my career through local governance. A lot of the things that Grand Rapids has have been in a lot of the communities that I have run in the past. An example would be in Auburn Hills. We have the Palace of Auburn Hills. High entertainment value, a lot of national attention goes to that. We have the Suburban Showplace, which is a convention center in Novi. You have it all under one roof. It was really interesting. A little bit about myself is I'm married to Jennifer. We have 6 children, 4 girls and 2 boys. 2 of the girls actually came out here to Grand Valley State University, and 1 stayed. Actually, I'll be coming back in 2 weeks because she's getting married at the alumni house out at GVSU. So I really think that's one of the things, and I hope you realize you have out here, is something that attracts young talent. They come out here, and you hear it, and my other daughter to the left didn't want to leave. People don't want to leave once they come out here, and it says a lot about the lifestyle that's out here that's very attractive, and it's growing. The talent pool is growing all over Michigan. The businesses are all having a hard time to reach that talent. Where's the next level of talent coming from? And when you have an anchor like GVSU or some of the 14 other higher education components that are in Grand Rapids, you have that distinct advantage of keeping that young talent here to grow with. Some of the things that I found today that kind of play right into my wheelhouse is you're losing 50%, or you have the opportunity to lose 50% of your city employees in the next 5 years. That is a large turnover. It's happening all across the country with the silver tsunami coming up. But one of the things that I've done in every community I've been in is build teams, is go out and get talent. Find the talent that's already in the organization and bring them up through the ranks, sometimes faster than they even want or expect. But if you tap that young talent and grow it here, you have to grow your own talent. But you also have to have the reputation and ability to go outside your organization, if it's in the private sector or other public sector units, to grab other talent and bring it in, because losing 50% of your workforce is going to be a large challenge in the future. Another component that I think that I can bring to the city of Grand Rapids is economic development. Economic development comes in 3 forms. 1, it's local. It's the retention. It's getting into your current business partners and finding out what they need, what the city can do to help them grow in the community. It's a lot cheaper to grow your own talent than it is to go out and recruit companies from overseas or around the country. The other local component is growing your own businesses. The mom and pops. Most successful businesses start in basements or garages. So why not keep those businesses here and grow those businesses here? The second component is just what I mentioned before, is being open to attracting businesses from outside the region, outside the state, outside the country. In 2 of the communities I've run, Auburn Hills and Novi, we've been very successful at picking selective companies that have long-term growth plans that either have not been in the United States or want a presence in the Midwest. The third component of economic development that I think we're doing not a good job across the state, but we have pockets of it, is actually getting into the high schools with our business communities. So the schools are teaching what skills they need into the future. So that way we keep our talent here and we don't lose them to other states. What I learned today is you folks have a lot of collaborative efforts. And that's what I've run through my career, is collaborating with regional partners, collaborating with school systems. When I was in the city of Davison, we were able to combine all the school systems and the Parks and Recreation Department for 3 communities and hand that off for the schools to run, so there weren't duplicate services, duplicate employment, et cetera. That's still thriving today up in Davison, and it reminded me a little bit on our tour today of some of the arrangements the Grand Rapids Community School has with the city. Those collaborative efforts with the regional, the right place, working with the MEDC, working with other units outside your boundaries, other communities like Wyoming, attracting businesses. And you know what? We're not enemies with all these surrounding entities. If we're both going after the same business to locate in our city because we're proud of the city and we want everything to be here, well, it's not going to be everything right here. But if a business moves into Wyoming next to us, you don't think they're going to enjoy the nightlife and the other things that Grand Rapids proper has to offer? Absolutely. So I think those components of what I saw today, I think mirror or mimic my career for the past 25 years.
I'd like to follow up with the question, describe your approach to public outreach, community engagement, and seeking community input. What methods have you found to be most effective
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Community outreach and community input, I think, is changing by the minute. With the interweb and the Facebook and LinkedIn, right now we're more connected to more people with instant responses. And that is good. It's good in urgent situations when you need to get information out, but it also creates some issues of who's telling the narrative. So I think one of the things is to keep using technology to communicate with people, both to and from. But I think we'd be seriously doing a disservice if we didn't have face-to-face meetings in the public, because there's so much more you can find when you're talking to somebody and listening to them talk and watching their body language, and you're not talking by each other or shouting on the internet. So I think community outreach has always worked when you work with neighborhood groups and get to people where they live so that they feel comfortable talking instead of always bringing them to a city hall type of conversation. People are more comfortable in their own homes and in their places of work than they are in a foreign environment. So I think reaching out and getting out into the community is a great way to listen. But I think it's also important to go into some of these sessions without the answers. So many times us government policy wonks, we go in and we have the answers to everything. So we go to a community and we're going to talk about if it's Parks and Rec. We know what we want to do. Go ahead and tell us what you want to tell us and we'll tell you how we're going to solve it. I think we have to make the conscious effort to be active listening and not listening to give an answer. So I think it's real important, especially because it's not just going to be one commissioner or the city manager, but the entire staff has to understand that part of our role is to actively listen and elicit input from these sessions and not going in with preconceived notions. How we've used communications to solve issues. We recently had a water crisis in the city of Novi where we gain our water through the Detroit system. It's a regional water system, and a 6-foot main blew. 80% of our people were without water for a week. That's a major crisis in a community of any size. But our team, we through using our communication skills, we're able to communicate with a lot of people and keep them constantly informed of what was happening. So much so that other communities started logging on to our sites to gain information because they weren't getting the information from their own communities. And we had so many calls afterwards of how did you do that? But it's just a team coming together and working and using all the tools, including technology, to get the word out. And especially in a crisis situation when water is very important. I know a couple communities in the state right now that are going through something very similar, handing out bottled water. We had several water trucks come in to keep the citizens with fresh water.
Thank you, Pete. Okay, next up is Mike Cernich from Tamarack, Florida. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
We're going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us about your current responsibilities, your career accomplishments, why you think you would be a good fit here in Grand Rapids as city manager, and then also, based on your tour today, what impressed you about Grand Rapids?
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Cernich. I'm currently the city manager in Tamarack, Florida, and I want to be the city manager here in Grand Rapids. But you knew that because that's why you're here. And I wanted to say thank you for being here and being a part of this process. a little bit about me. Let me give you some observations from today and some things that I thought were very, very interesting. They were things I knew, but they were things that were affirmed by the city staff and the people that we met with today. I love the passion that you all exhibit for the city of Grand Rapids. I really love the passion that you exhibit for your community, for your neighborhoods, and for not only your success, but for the success of other people. And I just need you to know that that really shines through when you talk to people from Grand Rapids and from people about Grand Rapids. Let me tell you a few of the things that I'm passionate about. Obviously, I'm a city manager. I'm very passionate about local government and what I consider to be good government. Being a city manager is a tremendous opportunity, all right? And what I bring to the job and what I bring to the organizations that I've successfully managed is the fact that we have this awesome opportunity and also this awesome responsibility to positively impact upon people's lives every single day. So every single day that I get up and go to work, I have the opportunity to improve someone's life in a positive way if I do my job and I do it well. And what I saw today in the organization that presented itself to us were like-minded people who wanted to do the same thing to improve the quality of life day in and day out for the people of Grand Rapids. And I think that understanding my passion for local government and my commitment to improving the quality of life of others and being a man for others, I think that I would be a great fit to be your next city manager. A little bit about Tamarack, where I'm from. Tamarack is a city of 65,000 people. It's in southeast Florida. It's in Broward County. Fort Lauderdale is our next door neighbor, to give some context to that. Broward County is 2 million people, 31 cities. It's wall-to-wall development. From my office in City Hall, within 4 or 5 miles, there are at least 6 other cities that I can see. We have the 5th largest accredited school district in the nation. The school district serves 2 million people. There are over 300,000 students served by the school district, and I'm going to get back to that fact in just a minute. So when I went to work for the city of Tamarack in 2001, the city of Tamarack was old. The average, the median age was 67, and it was mostly white. It was very Christian in the east and very Jewish in the west, and frankly, they didn't like one another. They didn't get along. Over time, those differences went away, and over time, our community got a lot more vibrant and a lot younger. Today, the median age in the city of Tamarack is 48, and we are very much a majority-minority community now, multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, and in my role as city manager and deputy city manager, I have successfully transitioned us to a much younger, much more vibrant community by getting out and engaging the community in ways that matter, by being involved in the neighborhoods, by being involved with the business community, by making sure that our organization is represented at homeowners association meetings and business association meetings. One of the things that we benefit from in Tamarack is that we are an incredibly safe community. We don't have an issue with law enforcement not being trusted by the community because we've had law enforcement in our neighborhoods and in our schools, in our community, for as long as I've worked for the city. We've developed a high level of trust with the community to the point where the #1 complaint about law enforcement in Tamarack is that the neighborhoods don't see enough of them, that they want us to be more visible. We have the benefit of a very low crime rate with a lot of crime in neighboring communities that hasn't been able to infiltrate our community because our police do such a good job on behalf of the city. So Tamarack is a great place. it is not without some challenges. All right, affordable housing has always been a challenge in Tamarack, very similar to what you have here. People need a place to live. And as our community got younger, we had the benefit of having, in fact, some really quality housing stock that the city had done a number of things to invest in within the neighborhoods to keep things vibrant and to keep things new, to keep things fresh and to retain the value in those homes. And so as we got younger, we became known as an affordable destination for young professionals, young families, and for the working class. Tamarack is very much a blue-collar, middle-class, working-class community where mom works, dad works. Some people have to work 2 jobs. It's expensive to live in South Florida. Our median household income is just about the same as Grand Rapids. It's about $43,000 a year. The cost of housing eats up at least 30% of that typically for any household, which in our minds is unacceptable. And so while we are an affordable place to live, every single housing development that now comes through either has an affordable component to it or pays into an affordable housing fund in order for us to invest back into the community in ways that keep the affordable housing that we have affordable for future residents. One of the other challenges that we face is economic development and redevelopment. Tamarack is a built-out community, so anything that we do relative to new development means that something comes down in order for something to go up. So in order to do that and do that in a way that the community embraces, we have to do a great job of getting out and making sure that the community is invested in and accepting of new development. Everything that we do commercially impacts on an existing neighborhood. Everything that we do residentially impacts on an existing neighborhood. And you know, with that, I think that we've done an exceptional job. One of the biggest challenges that we have are schools. Our schools aren't great. I would go so far as to tell you that our schools aren't even good. Our schools are average. And for me as the city manager, understanding what we've tried to build in Tamarack for our community, having average schools is unacceptable. We've spent a great deal of time and are now investing a substantial amount of money in improving our public schools. The challenge with that is, as I go back, school districts are county-wide in Florida, so there are only 67 school districts in the state. We have very little control over our schools. 14 public schools service the city of Tamarack, only 3 are actually in the city itself. And so schools are a challenge for us. We've launched a whole host of initiatives from early childhood development to VPK to after-school programs to improving the quality of educational opportunities for our residents and for their children that attend public schools. We've worked closely with our school board to try to get more attention and more focus on our existing schools, and we are seeing success with that. But in order to continue to be successful as a community, that is a problem that we need to solve. When I started, I said Tamarack was old. It's not as old as it used to be, but we still have a prominent senior population, and those seniors still need to have their needs met as well. They cannot be forgotten. And so we've made it a point to make sure that we continue our senior programs, always adding senior programming, making sure that our community hospital is strong and is in meeting the needs of the community, and making sure that the services that they provide are there for the entire community. We almost lost our community hospital 7 years ago. It was losing money every year. The city got involved and worked with the hospital to revitalize and to rejuvenate the hospital. I happen to sit as the chairman of the hospital board this year, and it's something that I'm very proud of, because without the hospital, we lose a vital component of our community. And so we have our challenges. As the city manager, I've faced a number of challenges as city manager, things that were difficult that I needed to manage. We lost 2 police officers. I had 2 police officers ambushed and gunned down in cold blood. Brian Tefford died. Brian Carpacci survived this attack. That went to a countywide manhunt, and it caused a great deal of tension in our community. Another horrible thing that occurred not too long ago, we had a young Haitian man who was gunned down in the driveway of a home while, I'll say, removing compact discs from the homeowner's car. And that was a horrible tragedy, and it was so horrible, and it got so bad that even Facebook had to take the post down about it because it became such an issue. We've really had some difficult things that I've had to deal with. We've had, in my time as city manager, I've actually had 3 elected officials that were removed from office by the governor for doing improper things. And as city manager, you have to be a lot of things. You have to be an innovator, you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a strategist, you have to be a leader, and you have to be compassionate. And in order to maintain my role in the community, and in order to continue to lead our organization with some of the challenges that we've faced, I've done that, and I've done that by being transparent. I've done it by being honest. I've done it by being straightforward and open with the community and communicating very directly with the community things that are going on and why. I've made it a point to communicate these things with our employees as well, because our employees are our best ambassadors. So our employees need to be out, need to be active in the community, and need to be able to communicate with our residents and with our citizens about what's going on. That's a little bit about me as a city manager. Let me tell you a little bit about myself personally. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. I grew up in the Midwest. I lived in Quincy, Illinois, Omaha, Nebraska. I went to the University of Detroit, where I got my undergraduate degree. I don't know if there are any Titans in the room, but if there are, more power to you, because there aren't that many of us, it seems. I worked for Electronic Data Systems for several years after I graduated from the University of Detroit, and made my way down to San Antonio, Texas to get a master's degree in public administration because I decided that I wanted to be a city manager. I met my wife of 20 years in San Antonio. Rosemary was a little upset that she couldn't join me in Grand Rapids. Our family is on vacation this week. Actually, tomorrow is my Wednesday is my father-in-law's 85th birthday. He has family coming in from Santiago, Chile. I'm a little proud of my father-in-law. My father-in-law immigrated to the United States in 1955. He's a pretty special guy to me. He raised 6 very successful children. My wife is a first-generation American. My father-in-law, to his credit, when he retired, had never made more than $26,000 a year. He managed to put 6 kids through college and raise some wonderful children, and I'm very proud of him, and my family is there honoring him on Wednesday. I'll actually be leaving here Wednesday morning and going there myself. When I talked to my children about Grand Rapids, they had some questions, as you might imagine. Florida kids that don't know anything more than shirts and shorts had some questions about Grand Rapids. My 7-year-old daughter asked me, she said, "Daddy, does it really snow in Grand Rapids?" And I assured her that it did. And she was skeptical. She said, "Are you sure, Daddy?" And I said, "Honey, you won't be disappointed in the amount of snow." Now, my son, on the other hand, he's an aspiring middle school student, and he asked me, he said, "Dad," he says, "if we go to Grand Rapids," he says, "can we go to Cedar Point?" And I looked at him and I said, "How do you know anything about Cedar Point, son?" And he looked at me like I was silly, and he said, "Google, Dad, try it." Folks, that's just a little bit about me. As I said, I'm looking forward to continuing with this process. I would very much like to be the next city manager in Grand Rapids. I think that the second part of the question was about what were my observations from our tour this morning and driving around.
What were you impressed with?
What was I impressed with? So here's
Briefly,
yes. So here's what I see. Here's what I see in Grand Rapids that I think is special. I saw a lot of great redevelopment going on. I saw a lot of private investment going into this community. That means new jobs, that means new economic opportunities for the community, that means long-term financial stability, which is vital to really making this community great. And when I talk about great, I don't talk about just a great city, but I talk about a world-class destination. I saw the convention center, I saw the arena, we saw the museums, we saw all of the great things that Grand Rapids has to offer. What we didn't see on the tour, but what I saw yesterday when I was driving around the city after I had arrived here in the early afternoon, was I saw a lot of tremendous opportunity for Grand Rapids to continue to get better. One of the things that I did was I tried to seek out some of the neighborhoods that I thought we wouldn't see on the tour. You know, show me the places where Grand Rapids needs to be improved. Let me see the areas that really need some attention. And I went out and I found some of them. And what I was most impressed with when I found them was, having lived in Detroit for 7 years in the early 80s and early 90s, was I didn't see a neighborhood that I wouldn't get out and walk around in after dark. As a matter of fact, what I saw neighborhoods where children were riding their bikes through the streets and up and down the sidewalks. I saw neighborhoods where people were investing in their homes and where people were out enjoying themselves, walking the sidewalks, spending time in the parks. And for me as a city manager, most importantly, I saw neighborhoods where the city was investing in the neighborhoods. I saw streets being paved. I saw sidewalks being repaired. I saw curb and gutter being poured. That's a really huge investment for the city to be making in its neighborhoods to keep the neighborhoods great. So I was really impressed with what I saw on a municipal level in Grand Rapids, and I look forward to being involved in it going forward. Thank you all very much.
We've got another question.
Okay.
As part of getting things done, describe your approach to public outreach, community engagement, and seeking community input. What methods do you find most effective?
So, in order for a city to be successful, you've got to have the buy-in and you've got to have the trust of the entire community. Everything has to be done in an open and a transparent manner. My approach has always been, and we've gone so far in Tamarack as to incorporate this into our land development regulations now recently, where we adopted a new form-based code. Community engagement is required on every new development that we do. Community engagement is the first thing that an applicant has to do before they even submit to the city. They need to go out and they need to talk to the community about who is going to be impacted, and they need to share that with the community, and the community needs the opportunity to have input and be heard. That's the first thing. On a more regional approach, everything that we do in Tamarack has an impact not only on the city of Tamarack, but it has an impact on the city of Coral Springs, the city of Sunrise, the city of North Lauderdale, Lauderhill, Lauderdale Lakes, the city of Margate. Anytime that we do something, it has an impact on our neighbors, and our neighbors are literally neighbors. They are right next door. And so if we don't engage with our neighbors, not just the people of Tamarack, but with our neighbors in other cities, we're gonna do things that have unintended consequences, and we're not going to be successful with them. And so again, engagement and being open and transparent with the community is vital for me. And that doesn't just go for new development, it doesn't just go for capital projects, it goes for everything that the city does and everything that the city invests in, from debt issuances and the reasons why, to our annual State of the City address, to our financial situation, making sure and communicating to the community what we do, why we do it, and why the monies that they pay to us matter in terms of us reinvesting those resources into the community. We do extensive research. We do extensive outreach with a community magazine. We're active on social media. We host countless, town hall meetings, community meetings, neighborhood meetings. We have assigned people to attend just about every single homeowners association meeting that occurs. We make sure that the city has a presence at those meetings. We've formed up not too long ago a homeowners association liaison program so that every homeowners association, every community association, every civic association knows who to get a hold of at City Hall, who to contact, and how they can get the services that they need from us.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you
Appreciate
all very
it.
much.
All right. Our next candidate is April Lynch, City Manager of Ferndale, Michigan. Hi, April.
Hi, how are you?
Good. April, our first question is to have you introduce yourself and tell us about your current responsibilities, your career accomplishments, and why you think you would be a good fit as city manager of Grand Rapids. And also, as a part of that, based on your tour today, what impressed you on the tour about Grand Rapids?
Okay, well, that is a very multi-level question, isn't it? Hello, thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight. Again, my name is April Lynch. I am currently the city manager for the city of Ferndale. We border the city of Detroit, so I like to look at ourselves as a small community with big city problems and big city opportunities. So it was fitting to, when I saw the posting for Grand Rapids, many similarities, which I'll get to in just a second. This is my 22nd year in government, which is a little terrifying to say, but I come from a long line of civil servants. Both my mom and my aunt retired from Ottawa County. I currently have a brother who is a police officer in Louisville and a sister who's a teacher, and I have a little brother who's also in the military right now. So it's been in our blood, and it continues to be, and I love every second of my job. I actually grew up on the west side of the state. I spent 9 years in Grand Haven. I started in the police department in the Grand Haven on a COPS grant, if you will, on community policing. From there, I decided to get my master's in business and human resources and became the HR director for the city of Grand Haven. And when I completed my time there on my 9th year, I was the assistant to the city manager as well as the HR director before moving to the city of Monroe on the east side of the state as their HR director. I will say, as much as I loved human resources, which is where I thought my career path was going to go, I immediately missed the operations side of city government and felt like I was missing the component of the residents and just how we run as a city. I still love the HR component, but I was anxious to get back to the operations side. So from there, I went to the city of Ypsilanti, which borders Ann Arbor. I started there as the assistant city manager, HR director, and by the time I left, due to budget cuts, I was overseeing the planning and zoning department as well as community development. So I had a lot of experience there before heading over to the city of Ferndale. The city of Ferndale, again, borders the city of Detroit. We're a full-service community, police, fire, DDA, public works, recreation, all of the components that you see in a traditional city. One of the things that was really important to me is that there are a lot of value systems that I look for in communities. The last two communities that I've been in, Ypsilanti and in Ferndale, they really put an emphasis on more than just core services, sustainability, innovation, social equity. And that really was appealing to me for the city of Grand Rapids. In fact, it was interesting, last week during the work week, we had an event with our City Hall employees as we started rolling out some internal culture, mission and vision statements. And I was having a conversation with the HR director, and I said, it's kind of untimely that we're delivering this information as it's becoming public that I'm a candidate here for Grand Rapids. And so one of the things that I told our team was how much that our core values of Ferndale really mirrored that of Grand Rapids, and they called me out on that. I don't know if you're familiar with Ferndale, very, very progressive. And they approached me and said, you know, you said that you share those values, but isn't West Michigan and Grand Rapids really conservative? And I said, you can still have conservative values, but still have those core values of a vibrant city. And that I said that was some of the definite highlights of why I applied for this position. The next question is the tour observations. Okay. Because we border Detroit, we do work a lot with our neighbors. We border on two sides of Ferndale, on 8 Mile and on Woodward. And one of the things that was really interesting to me when I came and looked at Grand Rapids from a very different perspective is I expected more of some of the Detroit issues. And what I mean by that was, you know, we have some areas that border even Ferndale that are completely blighted. There's actually streets that aren't even, that are empty with houses that are still burned out, things of that nature. And I was so excited to see that while there are some areas that probably need help with rehab, that issue wasn't there. The amount of vacants that Detroit has is startling. I think that the other thing I noticed was how much green space you have. In such a dense community, I was so impressed with how much that you have stayed respectful to the green spaces that are in our neighborhoods. I think that is incredibly critical, and the investment that you're putting into the parks. I think so much right now we're focused on streets, and as we should be, in our infrastructure as we should be, but we forget about how important parks are to our neighborhood. So I was really excited to see that. The other thing that really surprised me, and I was so pleased to hear, was the relationship that the city has with the school system. That's another missing component that Detroit has, and in Ferndale we have a good relationship, but we're really struggling. We're down to 2 schools that are even open in Ferndale due to budget cuts and things of that nature. And so to see such a healthy partnership with the schools was so exciting for me, because your community is partly vibrant because you have a good school system. And I mean, obviously all school systems have room for improvement, but that was really, really, I was really excited to see that. So those were some of the components that I saw, as well as just a lot of the same signs that we see in Ferndale about being a welcoming community and how we're open and inclusive, which was, again, a very critical part of why I work for the city of Ferndale and why I'd want to work for Grand Rapids.
Nope. One more question. As part of getting things done, describe your approach to public outreach, community engagement, and seeking community input. And what methods do you find most effective in getting that input? Sure.
In Ferndale, we've had to get really creative. So I have to tell a little story, because in 22 years of government, that's never happened. So we were one of the first to hire a communications director for a community of our size. And we were going through a millage proposal. It was a renewal. And we worked really, really hard at creating town halls. The first one we had an okay turnout, was like 15. But the big one, the big night that we were expecting a ton of people, we had poster boards, we had every single staffer out, all of the council ready to answer questions to our community. And literally not one person showed up, not one. And we were a little sad, but what we did is we reframed how we communicate and how we do outreach. It depends on the issue as well. So one of the things that we like to do is our community is very big on social media. but they're not big on the city's social media. They've created their own forums. And for a long time, quite some time, when we first started, it was like, well, that's not the city's, so we're not going to engage. And if they want to learn, they can come on the city's Facebook page. And that didn't work. And so we were able to work with some of the other groups, like Ferndale Forum and things of that nature, and work with the moderators and said, we want to be part of that. We want to be able to answer questions and concerns so that we can get to the grassroots of what's going on here. So we use different pockets of social media that aren't ours, and we've had a lot of, I think, an increase in trust because of that, because we're very open to going to where our residents are. I think the other thing that we have done is, depending on the issue, for instance, we have a parking deck that we're working on right now on our core downtown, and we created a focus group that we could sit down with with residents and business owners that were going to be impacted by this parking deck, and really sat down with them and said, what is it that is causing you the most anxiety about this project? So we take different levels of engagement depending on the issue and depending on how we need to get that feedback. We're doing a lot online as well, but we also want to take care of those folks that technology is not their game.
Thank you, April.
Yep, that's it.
And our final candidate is Mr. Mark Washington, who's the Assistant City Manager for Austin, Texas. Hi, Mark. Thank you. First off, please introduce yourself and tell us about your current responsibilities, career accomplishments, and why you think you would be a good fit as the Grand Rapids City Manager. And then as part of that, based on your tour today, what impressed you about Grand Rapids?
I bet this is the first time you've asked that question.
Nope.
No, just kidding. Good evening, afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Washington. I am the Assistant City Manager for the City of Austin. Glad to be here. I want to thank the Mayor and Commissioners for this wonderful opportunity. I have been in the public sector for of affordable housing. I grew up in 1732 Village East Boulevard, Apartment 138 in Port Arthur, Texas, 151 affordable units. Went back, didn't know it then, but it's 80% of MFI was the qualification to get in that housing. In that housing neighborhood, we were 1 mile away from the grocery store, Safeway at the time, 1 mile away from a good school, 1 mile away from restaurants, entertainment. It was a good community. And even though I grew up as a my mother raised me as a single mother, and my father was an ex-offender, it was because of the quality of life around the neighborhood that I lived in that I was able to make it. In Port Arthur, I had a summer intern program in the 10th grade working at the Port Arthur Health Department. Didn't know what public service really was at the time. I thought the mayor did everything. Had no idea what city management was. Graduated later on from college with my bachelor's and master's degree in business administration, and then began working in the city of Fort Worth, which is now the 15th largest city in the country. And I worked my way up from a management intern up to the executive ranks, leading the HR department as assistant director. Helped them through some very tough challenges, to include addressing their OPEB unfunded liability, among other issues in the workplace. Went on to become the Director of Human Resources and Civil Service for the City of Austin. Have been there the past 9 years. In my responsibilities as Director of Human Resources and Civil Service, all the traditional responsibilities that come along with acquiring and maintaining talent and employee relations, but also have added responsibilities that evolve outside the workplace. We have Equal Employment Fair Housing Office that's responsible for enforcing housing and employment discrimination. And I led that effort along with our Veterans Office as well as our Youth and Family Services program to look at creating opportunities for young people in the community and bettering their quality of life. I served as the director there effectively for over 6 years and was promoted to first interim assistant city manager and then permanently for the past 3 years. I have about 8 departments that I'm directly responsible for, but also provide support in leading our entire organization, which is about 14,000 employees and a $4 billion budget. My direct responsibilities of those 8 departments include about 1,500 employees and a little over $500 million in funding. I believe that you have many candidates that are here in Grand Rapids. Lots of the candidates that you spoke to, anyone can do the job, but I believe I can do it for a very reason. You have great leadership that you have had over the past 30 years. I believe I would like to be, the 28th city manager for this city. I believe that some of the issues that we are addressing in Austin is similar to some of the issues that you have here in Grand Rapids, although our community is a little bit different. We have almost 1 million residents. The issues are still the same. This is a vibrant economy, great community to live in, and with that you're having the challenges of growth, affordability, mobility, traffic issues, parking issues, as well as housing and opportunity that ensures that everyone can receive prosperity and not just some. And so those are the same issues that we're finding in Austin, but I bring you a gift. I bring you a gift from the experiences that we've had in Austin, both good as well as bad. We've learned from our mistakes, and so I believe coming to Grand Rapids, I will give you the opportunity to benefit from the experience without having to experience the same types of mistakes. One of the areas that I'm responsible for is our innovation office, and I appreciate the opportunity to learn how to do things with community and not to community. And so there are problems that we all will be able to commonly face, and I believe in doing it with community, with the workforce, with labor, with employees, even if it's sometimes disruptive, and being co-creative and collaborating to find out what is the best solutions for this community. I've also had an opportunity to start our first equity office. It was some years ago, before we had the equity officer, in which we have right now. The city manager asked me and another colleague to research best practices across the country and figure out what kind of response did we want to provide to the council direction to improve equity within our community. And I was glad to have an opportunity to come to Grand Rapids for the first time, not because of a job, but because of the mission that surrounds the work of improving equity in our community, and had a chance to meet the Grand Rapids equity team and the mayor at the time, and have been really benefited from the work that our sister cities have learned from each other and share with each other. So I think a lot of the common issues that we're facing, that are being faced here, is being faced in Austin, and I would love to be at the forefront of this organization, bringing our community and workforce together to help them address these issues. I am also no stranger to community work. In addition to my responsibilities as a public servant, I also pastor a church, a community leader in Austin. I have been in ministry over 20 years, ordained minister in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and recognize the responsibility that comes either with the job as a city manager, or I would be doing this even if I were not in public service. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Impressions on the tour?
The tour, very, very insightful. This is a wonderful community. The downtown is almost Camelot. It looks perfect. But like many other sprawling communities, when you start to look at the edges of the community, you see that the prosperity has not affected all areas, and in some areas it has, and it was unintended or unplanned with some of the gentrification. And so I think this is a great opportunity to partner with civic organizations, nonprofit, other governmental entities. You're starting the, what I heard was the medical mile. I like to see it as your opportunity for further innovation and economic development in other centers and pockets of the city. And so this is very, I was impressed when I came before. I'm even more impressed after taking the tour and getting an opportunity to speak to some of the residents about their lived experiences.
And one more question, Mark, as part of getting things done, describe your approach to public outreach, community engagement, and seeking community input. What methods do you find most effective in getting that input?
Yep. As I mentioned before, I think community, what I've learned, particularly when we began discussing our efforts over public safety and police oversight, one of the areas that I'm responsible for is executive leadership over our labor relations efforts in negotiating the contract with police, fire, and EMS, being part of a fine group. I can't do it by myself. I've got a great team of people who help us in that work. And one of the challenges that we have, like other cities like Grand Rapids, is trying to improve our police community relations. And what we have discovered, this is a work that management and the unions cannot do alone, that we have to engage community and find out those things that are of value to them and that would allow them to feel more trust in local government, more trust in their police department and other public safety workers. And so to that end, part of our engagement effort has been to listen to the voices in community, and not only listen for management, but to listen along with labor, with the unions, and decide what are the ideal components, the evidence-based practices our council has asked us to look at around this country that will make our citizens feel like we have a public safety effort that makes everyone feel safe and valued. And that is being done with community. And so it is after we prioritize those kind of elements in our public safety oversight, then will we begin to talk about with our labor organizations what things we would like to see negotiated in terms of improved police oversight, as well as our police management, on how we can improve accountability, transparency, and trust among public safety.
Thank you, Mark. Well, what we'd like to do is have a little informal meet and greet and have the candidates mingle around the crowd, and you all can ask directly, one-on-one, questions you have of the candidates and get to know them, introduce yourself. And we're going to probably go a little bit past 7, so get some refreshments in the back and just make yourself comfortable and ask some questions. Thank you.